Zeke was signed to the New England Patriots for a 1-year deal worth up to $6 million. And we'll start with it just like we did for Dalvin Cook. Give me Ezekiel Elliott's 2023 stat line with the New England
Dude,
Patriots.
you're throwing me off. At first, I was like, oh, wait, we're not going to talk about Zeke. And then you I thought we were ending the show. And then I love the way the show's flowing. It's very smart. Sorry. But back to what you're saying.
No, you're good.
Not as high in it as it was with Dalvin Cook. I think this will be a pretty underwhelming signing. I think, unfortunately, and obviously we talked about it on our show a couple weeks ago, just about when, before Saquon and Josh Jacobs got their deals, where it's just the running back, by the time they're getting their second contract, it's just they've slowed down so much. And I think, unfortunately, that's where I'm at with Zeke. I still think if you're the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson should be your guy, just because of
still the feature back.
Yeah, just because of his downhill ability. So to me, the Zeke one's not as big of a deal. I don't really have too much to say on it because I think he's another guy who I think just let it all go. Like he had it all. And I think for me, unfortunately, he just kind of gave it all up. So that's at least where I was at with it, simply because it's just now an Ezekiel Elliott who is, in my opinion, and obviously no hate to him, significantly heavier. Yeah, just like it's not as much of an impact signing, in my opinion, as I think some people may say.
Oh Lord, was I muted the whole time?
Yeah,
I
I
think I
could
was
not
muted
hear.
the whole
I
time.
could
I
not hear you.
butchered it. No, it's totally okay. I'll repeat myself. No worries. I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be an underwhelming signing. Underwhelming signing as well, because
Mhm.
you look at Bill Belichick, right? This felt like something that was safe. Zeke feels like he's worth $6 million a year right now.
Yeah.
Signs the big contract, holds out, biggest contract that we've ever seen from a quarterback, or not from a quarterback, from a running back, and he absolutely blows it. Whether it's injuries, whether it's inconsistency, just not being the Ezekiel Elliott that he was. Bill Belichick is in the post Tom Brady era. Hell, maybe he's in the post Mac Jones era. I don't know. He's got some questions about the possible quarterback position. I mean, Malik Cunningham started the game as wide receiver and ended the game, taking snaps at quarterback, and that was enough for some fans. It
Yeah.
really was enough for some fans, and it's comical how it can work out. But kind of like similar thing a little bit with the Dalvin Cook signing to the New York Jets. It's a veteran signing. And I feel like it's the same thing here with being a veteran signing for the New England Patriots. It's safe. Bill Belichick knows that Ezekiel Elliott, can perform in limited situations. And maybe if he is going to be a little more than limited, but not the feature back, he can plug in for that. 2023 stat line, I think it could be maybe, 500 to 700 yards, just depending. Maybe, 4 to 6 touchdowns, maybe 6 to 7 touchdowns. You never know. But I think it's going to be a main thing of goal line carries, short yardage situations, pass blocking, downs, blocking in general. And again, Bill Belichick knows that this is a veteran. This is a guy who can come in and be next to a Ramondre Stevenson, really mentor him, be that veteran, have that veteran presence, being one of, the top running backs over the last few years in the league. And at one point was the best running back in the league, led the league in rushing yards as a rookie, something that was very remarkable. And you see Ramondre Stevenson also having a big year. We saw him come
Yeah.
out of the draft. Belichick's used him very well. And now bringing in Ezekiel Elliott, again, knowing that he's going to be on the pass blocking down, short yardage situations, goal line carries. I think that's really going to be Zeke's bread and butter. But do you think it was a solid fit? I know you don't think it was a big signing, but do you think it was a solid fit, just considering kind of the lack of depth in that running back room, the safety of the move from the New England organization?
Yeah. Again, I think Zeke's not a super risky pickup. Obviously, again, a guy who has a ton of upside. We've seen that. But in terms of fit, I think, yeah, just because he's not a super, in my opinion, I don't think running backs are super scheme dependent. I think
Right.
they're generally, you can kind of plug and play. So that's what I would think with for Zeke. I don't think it's necessarily, in terms of fit, I think it's a fine fit. And I
Yeah.
think, again, I wouldn't be surprised if Zeke went to the Patriots and he goes for 1,500 yards. And it's like, what
Wow.
what just happened?
Yeah.
Not 50, okay, 1,500 is way too much. Excuse me. Over 1,000 or like a good season. I'll say a good season. I'm backtracking a lot. I'll say a good season just because we write Belichick off. We write Belichick off, and then he proves us wrong every time. That's why he's the best coach ever. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was productive and if he has a better year than he did the past couple. But again, it's not that like, oh my God, Zeke signed with the Patriots. Like
Right.
what? So it was a pretty underwhelming signing for me. And again, there's a reason why it
Same.
took him so long to sign a contract because I just think the interest wasn't there.
Right.
Um,
The
so
fall off
so
was major.
yeah, exactly. So again, not a signing I'm writing home about.
Yeah. Yeah. Not one that I'm writing home about either. I
Mhm.
think it was an okay fit for sure. When I saw the news break, I was like, wow, Zeke to the Pats. And I was like, they could
Mhm.
use him for sure. When you
Yeah.
talk about, JJ Taylor and, some of the older running backs, or not even older running backs, but just running backs on the depth chart that they have in there. I think they have a former USFL or CFL running back on the depth chart. So, they're definitely trying to pick and see what they can actually use. We remember the days of James White, Sweet Feet, who was great in the dual threat games, and, Sony Michelle was in there for a
Yep.
time. And then obviously they pick up Ramondre Stevenson, who I thought was a great pickup. I really enjoyed him coming out of the draft, and he's been pretty solid, and really earned that spot being over 1,000-yard rusher. But you look at the fact that the Patriots were ninth worst in rushing yards per game last year. Belichick wanted some protection in that pass game. In the pass blocking game, rather. Obviously, he wanted some of that veteran leadership in the run game. Again, goal line carry, short yardage
Mhm.
situations, a veteran, and a number two back for Ramondre, who just hit it big last year. He's going to need that 1-2 punch when your quarterback, position is a little questionable. Whether it is Mac Jones, who did lead you to double-digit wins in his rookie season, but we don't know. Slash, most people, I'm pretty sure, don't believe that that's the Mac Jones we're still going to get. How much longer does Belichick actually have in this league? Being a defensive minded coach, like I'm sure some teams, or not some
Yep.
teams, I'm sure some fans maybe wanted to see a bigger, more effective signing than Ezekiel Elliott. But is it needed? Yeah, absolutely. Their running back depth is really not there. And when you talk about a loaded conference, maybe the best, when you talk about a loaded conference, which is the best in the AFC, when you talk about a loaded division, which might be the best in the NFL next to the AFC West, next to the AFC North, Belichick had to make a move. And again, it's not going to be one that I'm probably even going to keep up with as the season goes on. If Zeke is able to contribute, then that's great. I hope he does. I have nothing against Zeke. I didn't like the fall off of him as a
Yeah.
player. The league, I definitely feel like, was better when Zeke Elliott was performing at his
Yeah.
peak, and just overall was performing at that higher level, which he is past that. He is on the other side of the prime age in the league, especially as a running back, and I think the contract reflects that as well. Before we get into the last topic of the show, were there any other landing spots that you possibly would have liked for Ezekiel Elliott, or maybe even a place that you wanted to see him go after he was unemployed for almost 2.5 months?
I think the Dolphins would have been a good one. And I think the Dolphins would have been a good one for Dalvin Cook as well, just because I think they do have more of a hole there.
Yeah,
I think the Panthers would have been another good one. Um,
I was kind of thinking the Panthers.
yeah. Uh, those are the two main ones that I thought he would go to. But I think
Yeah,
the Patriots, I guess, again, kind of makes sense.
right.
But
It
those
really
those are
did.
those are kind of my two main ones. But then when you went to the Patriots, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I can side with some of those. The Dolphins, I was kind of thinking about at first, but I know they've got, I was really hoping they brought in Dalvin. I was like, man, that would be
Yeah.
crazy. But I know
Well, they
they got
have that standout Devon Achane who's been fantastic for
yeah,
them. Yeah.
yeah, A Shane, yeah, absolute speedster. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
he's going to be great in his rookie year. I was thinking possibly Cincinnati, just for that guy to be in those short yarded situations, maybe even more pass protection for Joe Burrow, who is manipulating the pocket at times, playing a lot of the gun like we see in the NFL today. Maybe even the Steelers to complement a Najee Harris. Najee really feels like a young buck version, of a Ezekiel Elliott, and then maybe even the Los Angeles Rams as well. Maybe like to see a running back get in there on their depth chart. But I will say the landing spots for Zeke didn't feel too major. They didn't feel like he had a big market. Like Dalvin Cook, I did a whole damn segment on who could sign Dalvin Cook. The whole league should have been calling for Dalvin Cook. Maybe a quarter of the league, or a quarter of the league, so an eighth of the league was
Yeah.
actually calling about Ezekiel Elliott. And again, I'm not taking anything away from him. But this prime situation right here, with this team and the state that they're in and the state that this player's in, and with the contract, shows you specifically why the running back position is being devalued.